Lieutenant Sova had wanted to be a diplomat since she was 6 years old. She had grown up in the coastal cities of Thalos IV, watching the first contact vessels lift from the ocean launch platforms, and dreaming about the day she would stand on a foreign world and build something lasting between peoples who had never spoken before. She was 23 now, top of her academy class, and she had just been handed her first research assignment, a deep historical survey of galactic treaty law, beginning with the oldest known accords. It should have been dry work. She expected dust and bureaucracy and centuries-old arguments over border terminology. She found the compact of assembled worlds in the third archive she searched, and the dust fell away immediately. 4,200 years old. 117 signatory species, many of them still spacefaring, many of them gone. The document itself was staggering in its scope: resource rights, territorial boundaries, conflict arbitration, first contact protocols, the accumulated diplomatic wisdom of 4 millennia compressed into a framework that still underpinned most modern galactic law. Sova read it for 6 hours straight. There was one clause that stopped her completely. Article 31, 11 words where every other article ran to pages. No elaboration, no definitions, no listed exceptions or arbitration procedures. Just 11 words, and a signature block containing every single one of the compact's 117 signatories, the only clause in the entire document that carried unanimous agreement. Do not engage the humans in their home system ever, for any reason. Sova read it 4 times. Then she went looking for context. There was none. No attached commentary, no historical record of the debate that must have preceded it, no incident report that might explain what had prompted 11 words to receive the unanimous signature of over 100 civilizations. It sat in the middle of the compact like a stone in still water, self-contained, unexplained, immovable. She brought it to her faculty advisor the next morning. Professor Heaven was 300 years old, which for a Thalosi meant he had personally witnessed most of modern galactic history, and he looked at the clause on her tablet with an expression she had never seen on his face before. Something careful moved behind his eyes and settled there. "Where did you find this?" he asked. "Third archive. Deep history survey." She watched him. "Professor, what does it mean?" "I searched every attached document. There's no explanation for why." "No," he said, "there wouldn't be. Do you know why it's there?" Heaven was quiet for a moment that stretched uncomfortably. "I know what everyone knows," he said finally, "which isn't much. The clause predates most reliable historical record. We know it was added at the compact's first revision, approximately 40 years after the original signing." He set the tablet down carefully. "We know it passed unanimously, which had never happened before on any article, and has never happened since." "But why?" Sova pressed. "What did humans do that made 117 species agree on anything?" "Nobody alive knows precisely," Heaven said. "The record was either lost or, and this is the interpretation most historians favor, deliberately removed." He paused. "What we have instead is a cartographic record." He pulled up a star map on the room's display. The galactic arm, 4,000 years ago, populated with civilization markers in a dozen colors. Then he overlaid the current map. Some markers had simply faded, species that had died out naturally, through time and entropy, and the ordinary mortality of civilizations. But there was a cluster of them, 11 markers in a rough ring surrounding a particular region of the map, that hadn't faded. They had been replaced with a specific symbol Sova recognized from her coursework: catastrophic civilizational termination. Unknown cause. Comment treaty. If you already knew humans didn't need a reason to be feared. "Those 11, Sova said slowly. "They're all gone, yes. Terminated within a relatively short historical window. Clustered around the same period the clause was added to the compact." Heaven's voice was the careful neutral of a professor delivering information he had clearly thought about many times. "Their territory is where it was. Their ruins are still there. Archaeologists have studied them extensively." "What do the ruins show?" "That they were spacefaring civilizations at the peak of their development." A pause, and that they stopped very quickly. Sova stared at the 11 dead markers and felt something cold move through her. "You think humans—" "I think," Heaven said carefully, "that 40 years after first contact with humans, 117 species sat down and unanimously agreed to write 11 words into the foundational legal document of galactic civilization, and that 11 civilizations who were presumably present for whatever prompted those 11 words are no longer present for anything." He folded his hands. "I think the clause doesn't require explanation because the explanation was considered self-evident by everyone who signed it." Sova sat with that for a long moment. I tried to contact 3 senior diplomats from other species about this, she said. None of them would answer directly. They all just pointed to the map, Heaven said. Yes. He nodded slowly, unsurprised. That's the answer, Sova. That is the answer. He looked at the 11 dead markers on the display with the expression of someone regarding a very old warning sign. The clause doesn't say what humans did. It doesn't need to. It says what you should never make them do again. Sova looked at the map for a long time. At the 11 civilizations that had learned something so completely and so finally that their absence had convinced 117 others to agree on something unanimously for the only time in recorded galactic history. She thought about the humans she had studied in her xenoculture courses. Curious, warm, creative, deeply social, genuinely friendly in first contact scenarios. She thought about the human diplomatic missions she had read about, patient and thoughtful and consistently interested in cooperation. She thought about the human colony worlds, busy and bright and full of the particular chaotic energy of a species that seemed to genuinely enjoy existing. She looked at 11 dead civilizations arranged in a ring on a 4,000-year-old map. Are they dangerous? She asked quietly. Not academically. The way you asked about something real. Heaven considered the question with the weight it deserved. I think, he said finally, that they are extraordinarily careful. I think they are patient and measured, and that they extend good faith with what appears to be genuine sincerity. He looked at the map one last time before closing it. I think the clause exists because 40 years of contact was enough for 117 species to understand that the careful, patient, measured version of humanity is the version worth preserving. He stood, signaling the end of the conversation with the quiet finality of a man who had said everything useful there was to say. The 11 on the map found out what happens when you disagree. Sova walked back to her dormitory through Thalos IV's long coastal evening, the ocean burning orange beneath the setting sun, and she thought about 11 words written unanimously into the oldest treaty in the galaxy by species who had seen something they never wrote down because they never needed to. She thought about them for a long time. Then she went inside and sent a formal request to the Academy's diplomatic exchange program. She wanted to meet a human. Follow and share this story for more sci-fi shorts and drop a comment telling us what you think happened to those 11 civilizations.